Bueno, we're recording now. Federico, Pecchini, Garza, y yo.
Hi, everyone.
Yes,
How's it going?
it's good.
Another episode in English here of the podcast.
Yeah, true. The second one. Like, people are going to start wondering, like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, Fede, I don't know if you heard or saw any of the other podcasts, but last one was in English. We did with Danny.
The yoga teacher.
Yoga teacher, yeah. She was in New York, I think. Now you are in Reggio Emilia.
Italy, yeah.
What region of Italy is this?
This is Emilia-Romagna, like center north. Yeah.
Near Bologna.
Near Bologna.
Half an hour, Bologna. Half an hour?
Yeah, by train,
Garza, near Modena. Modena, Parma. Modena,
Yeah.
Parma, Reggio Emilia is like the trio of the...
I haven't been there, but it must be beautiful, right?
Well, it's pretty. Like, we eat good food here. We're proud of that. And we make fast cars like
Lamborghini, Ferrari.
It's not the most beautiful place in Italy, but we have our things to be proud of.
But you have two great things. Like, to start with, like, food is one of the pleasures of life, and then the cars. Like, what else, bro? What else do you need?
Yeah.
That's right.
Fede is also my cousin, distant cousin. We are same generation, but he's like the Italian version of, like, way cooler version of me. As my friend Nacho likes to say. Remember, Fede, you met my friend Nacho?
I remember Nacho,
Yeah. So I'll tell you, and for everybody listening, how we met, which is a cool story. This was years ago, I think 1998 or 99. So I was 10 and Fede was 11. I think it's 1 year older than me, or not even. And I was using ICQ. Remember ICQ?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
From my American friends. Yeah. How's it sound? Yeah.
that's right.
Nailed it. For my American friends, it's like an AOL messenger. This is way before MSN Messenger. So you could search, you had your details, so you could search for people. So actually,
you know why was it called ICQ?
Yeah, like search.
ICQ. Yeah.
So my dad has the idea, like, search like their last name, Pecchini. So like, okay, let's see Pecchini, and like 2-3 people come up, and one of them was Fede's uncle Mauro. So I wrote to all of them, and Mauro spoke English. So this is in my broken English at 10 years old, which then I went to Fede's granddad and grandmom's house like a few years ago, and they showed me the emails, so I could see my broken English from like when I was 10.
Insane.
But Mauro replied, and we started getting in touch, and we found out that I don't know if it's great grandfathers or great grandfathers were brothers. And then one went to Argentina, started family in Argentina, and then a little bit it got lost, the communication. That the Argentinian side always knew there was some Italian side, but not like all of Fede's family in Reggio Emilia, which is what we started rebuilding. My dad went to visit like a couple of years later, and then I got the Italian citizenship, everything. Actually, a few of them got Argentinian citizenship.
I got it.
You have it?
Really?
Yeah, sure.
Really?
You have DNI. It has Argentinian ID.
I think you're probably the first person that I met that, being European, I'm living in Europe, because if you live in Argentina, well, that's okay.
Yeah. Advantageous.
Very proud of that. Of my Argentinian passport.
I love it.
It's funny because foreign people are proud of that, but Argentines not.
I guess. Well, we are not that proud of the Italian one these days.
Yeah, especially now with the no World Cup again news.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. The story of how you met. Actually, I have a distant cousin that I've never met on person, but on those times also on ICQ. Hey, you're also Tenayon.
Pen pal.
Insane.
Yours is French?
Yeah, French.
Cool.
And then you lost touch with the cousin.
Yeah. I mean, I have her now on Facebook,
Yeah.
like a friend of Facebook. But I mean, we spoke maybe 5 times in my whole life.
Okay.
But I think she lives in Paris, so when I go there, maybe I will write her. But I don't know. Maybe it's weird, you know. Hey, I'm your cousin. We never we haven't
We've never
spoken in
met.
7 years.
No, it was very cool with Fede and the whole Italian side of the family, because like from the moment zero, they took it super like serious, and like a lot of like love and friendship and family came out of it, and we stayed in touch. And then we only met, I think, with Fede 2013 or 15, like
That's right. Yeah, in
first
person.
time
Yes.
in person. And then a couple of other times. So I probably saw Fede, I don't know, like 5 times total. We ran into each other in New York one time
That's
randomly.
true.
Yeah.
Randomly, really?
No, like we were in New
Almost,
York.
almost.
He was in
Yeah.
New York
Ah,
for like 2 days, and I arrived
yeah,
that day.
but it wasn't that you were like
No, no,
walking
no,
down the street.
no,
Hey,
no,
No.
no. Imagine. So yeah, that's the story, and I think that he will be an amazing guest for the podcast for a little bit of a different reason, because I know a little bit how he thinks about like corporate work and work in general, but he also has another side of things, another outlook of things that is interesting to me too. That now he bought a house, and he fixed the whole house, and he has his own. He grows his vegetables in the backyard, has some hens, and
it's cool.
something that I keep seeing. I maybe he knew about this like from years before, but I keep seeing that it's a thing to do now. People talk about like having your homestead and just like living a little bit off the grid and taking care of your needs and being super independent. So I
Yeah.
think it relates to a lot of what we talk on the podcast, even if it's not like entrepreneurship or freelancing and
No, yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
totally, for sure. Yeah, for sure. But how is it now, Fede? Like, you bought a house, like this house that Diego is talking about.
Yeah.
When did you buy it, and what was it like in ruins? How was it like?
No, actually, I bought it this summer, so like just a few months ago, and I bought it because it didn't need much renovation. It was like sound. Basically, it was like inhabited for like 15 years. It was empty, let's say. So like the garden had like grown into a forest. So the major work was there, like cleaning up the garden and cutting all like the vegetables, the like there were like really yeah, 2 3 layers of stuff to cut and throw away and burn. But
You
a part
did all
of,
of this by yourself.
yes, you remember that I sent you the photos with the
I, re-
machete.
I remember with a real
and
machete.
and I did it, yeah, without like I don't know how to say that in English, but the machine that cuts like all the
Yeah,
bushes
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
stuff.
The whipper snipper.
Exactly. So I didn't use that because I didn't have it in the summer.
And you had a machete. No, you
I
only
had
had to.
just, yeah, like hand tools, like manually. I did it like in a couple of weeks. It was like fun, I have to say.
Is it like a big
No,
garden?
not that big, but not that small either. Maybe like 500 square meters or
Ah,
something like
well,
that.
Yeah, and that
that's
layers
cool.
and layers of
Yeah,
wood.
and how much time did it take
Yeah,
you?
I don't know, like 2 weeks, 2 3 weeks
Ah,
of
well,
like
but
good work.
yeah,
You must be
But
ripped. No gym needed. No
I
gym
was
membership.
ripped. Yeah. Like this summer, I was totally ripped after that. And no, but the house is was in good shape. It just has to like I have to finish the last story, the third floor, which is not finished, but I'm doing that now. So I'm
great.
moving in some furniture and I'm finishing that up.
And you're now like growing vegetables, some of your
Yeah,
own food. And what do
yeah,
you
yeah.
grow?
Well, like I did the winter garden with like yeah, all the winter vegetables, some lettuce, and there was like cauliflower and broccoli and
Yeah,
fennel, and so I got like this was just like for an experiment, let's say. but it went like really good. The land was like super good because it was not used for 15 years, and
Rich in nutrients and everything.
yeah, with like very little work, I had a lot of vegetables, and so this like lasted me the whole winter. Basically, I froze them. I bought like a big freezer, and I put them inside there, and I basically ate the last cauliflower like a couple of weeks ago.
That's great. And before this, have you ever grown any other vegetable, or this was your first time?
No, yeah. I mean, in the last, I'd say almost 10 years, since like 2012, I was traveling the world basically many times, like hopping from one eco village or like organic farm to another. I was in South America, not Argentina, but all the Andes region, like from Ecuador down to like Bolivia. And I was in Europe, like France, Middle East, India. I was a bit everywhere, really.
That's cool. I'm really interested about this eco, how do you say, farms?
Eco village or eco farms, yeah.
In where are you in Peru? Like
in
Bolivia?
Peru, yeah, in Peru. In Peru, I had some extreme experiences. Like one is where I learned to use the machete. I was in the jungle, in like the beginning of the Amazon, near Rio Urubamba, like next to the border with Brazil. Basically, the Rio Urubamba, I think, is an affluent to the Amazon.
The Amazon.
Yeah. So we were there, and our task, it was like me, a German guy, and a Californian guy. We were like volunteering, and so they gave us this task of cleaning up a bit of the forest, which was once like a coffee and chocolate plantation, but it was like covered with the jungle. So we just had to cut everything but the coffee and cacao plants, and it was extreme. Like we were eaten alive by the bugs. There were like I remember like this three kids of this couple, which was mixed. Like she was Belgian, he was like local, and their three kids were like running around naked in the area, and they were like totally fine. And us, we were like totally covered with like just the eyes out like this, and swollen, like beating like hell.
This is mosquito. This is mosquito or something else?
No, mosquitoes.
These
lots
were
of
like
mosquitoes,
small. I never saw them like after that. They were like clouds of like very small, almost like fly, like the fruit fly thing, but they were like red, and they bit like mosquito.
Insane. Like I've been also in the Amazon 2 times, in Brazilian Amazon jungle, and also in the Bolivian one. Okay. And I remember when we got in the Bolivian one, like we had like long sleeve shirts.
That's right.
And everything, but even though that, it was like this whole cloud of fucking mosquitoes trying to beat you. And I saw the same as you were saying. Like this lady came with a baby and 2 little kids. They were like just with short trousers.
That's right.
And nothing happened. Like they were like the mosquito was stinging their eyes, and they were like.
No reaction.
Yeah.
But then you get used to it. Your body gets used and produces something.
I mean, no. In my case, it wasn't. But how long have you been there?
Yeah, how long?
Fede?
Like like 1 month. Like they say that the blood sort of start producing some sera that basically the mosquitoes don't like, or don't like as much. So basically, when they smell fresh blood, they get all in. And then
let's go and sting these white Europeans that with
yeah,
that's what happened. Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. Like and there in this farm they showed you different techniques or something like that.
Yeah, so like basically what you do there is you basically volunteer. At the beginning in South America, I was using this network, which is international. It's called WWOOF, like worldwide organic opportunities, like worldwide opportunities on organic farms. And basically you pay like a little subscription for like each country that you want to go visit, and they give you a list of all the farms that are there with contacts, and basically you tell them, okay, I'm coming here and here, and
the farms are privately owned.
They're, like they're families or couples or even like single people having a farm. Normally they have to be organic, either like certified or not. It doesn't really matter.
Sorry, I'm gonna ask a stupid question, but this
please.
is what I've been doing the last couple of years to feel like, honestly, to try and be an idiot, but being honest. Like, what is the main difference between something that is organic that doesn't? Like, they don't have any pesticides, or how is it?
No, yeah, I mean, it's basically, it depends on the regulations on each country, I would say, but mostly is, yeah, like you have only certain herbicides which are natural, like you cannot use the chemical like herbicides and biocides. You have to, I think the soil itself has to be clear for like from certain kinds of pollution, or like you cannot have a plantation like besides an industrial plant or something like that. Basically your food has to have like to reach certain standards. It cannot be GMO, I think, at least in Europe, and so forth. So yeah, I mean, the point is the certification, which costs money. But some of these guys, they just do it, but they don't have the certification. I mean, that's still.
I would guess it gets muddy depending on where and what the goods are. Then it becomes a little bit of a power and money struggle, and then the entity giving out the certification is a little bit crooked.
Exactly. So, but the certification is not that important. I mean, this is more something for the consumer in the big city, in the big European city, like buying boutique food for double the price.
Right.
Exactly. There is really like learning to do agriculture the traditional way, basically not industrial scale, but small scale, and trying to learn like the traditional plus, you know, some of the new techniques which can complement the traditional, but still, you know, in a natural way, let's say. So without using too much chemical.
Machines or chemical, but maybe the machine is okay because it's the same if you cut it.
Yeah. So this is the idea, and it was great, I have to say. Like I was in Ecuador 2 months in this finca in the mountains, and so we had like this huge avocado trees and made like guacamole, and of course like they teach you how to do all the like the natural fertilizers and stuff like that. Like every farm has their own techniques and have their own things, you know. Some farms will have also other, like some will do yoga, some will do so the spiritual side. As I told you, Diego, like in India, I was in one where like the focus was mostly on technology. So they were like hackers, but in a good sense, like they were IT engineers that basically moved to the mountains and like to live off the grid.
But also in one of these organic farms?
Yeah. They had
big
like
talent, the Indians, the IT and coding and hacking.
Exactly.
Yeah, you had a few years there. Was that where you stayed the longest for?
Yeah, the longest experience for sure. Like I went back to England, like to India for 3 years. I'd say I was there for like since 2016 to 2019, mostly in India. Yeah, in the like just below the Himalaya. Near like Dharamshala, that's where the Dalai Lama lives, and you have all the spiritual tourism from the West.
And in these places, like you go and you pay with your work, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
They give you food and accommodation, and you work as a volunteer. Basically, normally it's like 5 hours a day, so it's not like Yeah, it's not industrial work. It's like you help these guys out to do their thing. So
Yeah,
sometimes they have big farm, they cannot do it all by themselves, and you go in and give some like manpower.
that's cool.
I would guess it depends on the farm or the estate or the owners, but how much does the organization like cover you or supervise? Nothing. It puts you in touch, and then you show up. Maybe you talk with the owner a little bit before,
Yes.
you get a feel for it, and then you're there, and then I guess you have like more difficult people, like cooler people, from owners, from foreigners or locals, and the day-to-day gets arranged once you're there. You have to take a
Yeah.
big leap of faith going, right?
Yeah, it's true. Like, but maybe like the best thing you can do is contact a few people and
I
so
went
have
already. Yeah,
a few options. You know, if you don't like the first farm, like you just move on to the next and stuff like that. But it's totally free. Yeah, like the organization is just there to put you in touch with the people. That's it.
Yeah, Fede, and were you always interested in this kind of things since
yeah. Let's go back to when you
yeah,
start
Right.
doing
since
this,
when you
because
were a kid, or was it something that then you grew up and oh, I want to try this? How was this like backstory?
No, well, so my backstory was that after high school, I was already sort of like not liking too much the prospect of like yeah office life and like so I went like in Italy we end high school at 19, so after that I went to China with a friend, and we went there basically because I liked like the exotic idea of visiting China, but also we were like teaching English basically to private schools and public schools as well, because I mean China was a very unique like working environment, and that was like uh, 2006. So
I would imagine
uh,
very different China from the China today. This is because it's
I
changed.
guess I mean I never went back. I spent 1 year there, but I never went back. I have friends who were like there with me and went back, and they say yeah I was in Beijing like totally changed.
Hmm.
But you could see that like when I was there already in 2006, like the amount of constructions at the same time I saw in China, I mean I never saw again. Like
Hmm.
they were literally building hundreds of skyscrapers everywhere, like they were popping up like mushrooms, and hospital, huge story building. So like yeah, I mean, I guess like they were preparing for the Olympic Games in 2005, 2006.
Right.
So they were also like, not a lot of people were speaking English. So all the elite Chinese were trying to, you know, get a grasp, and
Yeah.
any white guy was an English teacher for them.
Yeah.
You saw this in the internet, or any other friend of yours had done it? So how did you get the idea from zero?
No, I mean the idea I guess was like mine, but yeah. So I went online and found in China like an office with which basically made you a certification for TEFL, so like the certification to teach English as a foreign language. So we did that when we got in Beijing. But my
Ah,
friend, the one I did it with, which was also Italian, was my classmate in Italy.
you spoke
He
good English from school, but you also had
I
some Australia.
Yeah, I mean, I speak English since I'm a kid because I spent like 1 year in Scotland when I was a kid, like because my dad was working there and stuff like that. So I always like spoke English pretty much like this, like
Hmm.
not perfect, but like pretty
It
good.
didn't get
Like
any better, but
yeah, yeah,
stay like this. Stay like this.
stay like this. My friend, like he did like this school program in which he spent 1 year in China during high school. So he learned Chinese, and he learned English as well, like to survive. And but he was very useful because he spoke Chinese,
Hmm.
so he could actually speak in Chinese with some people. Like China is very strange country on this. Like linguistically, is it's another universe. So English helps, but like not with.
Yeah, because the Mandarin, it's like with characters. It's not like with letters. Because I don't
Yeah,
know who spoke to me, who told me
yeah,
this,
yeah.
but it's like you need to learn the characters. Like it's not.
Well, yeah. Ideograms, like yeah, pictograms, like if you want to write it, but that is another like level. But even just speaking it, yeah, it's like it's different. So you don't have like letters and syllable. You have like yeah, like full like chunks of words, which are then in fact made of like sort of syllables. But the difficult thing is that they have like a tone language. So they have four different accents, let's say, in which they can say every sound. So they can say it like with the high accent, with the downgoing accent, with the upgoing accent. And so you can say like whoa or whoa, and it means a different thing.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think it was you. Maybe I'm wrong, but the gestures weren't the same, so you couldn't even help with the gestures, like take me here, like yes, no, like if you can't even use hands gesture, which for Italians are very important.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the numbers are different. I think it's like 1, 2, and then like 10 or like,
the number in your
totally
hand,
different.
crazy,
And
crazy.
like the face, like all like the body language is different as well. And they
smile.
are like
imagine if smiling means like threat. Imagine if you smile to somebody. Oh, what are you smiling for? Yeah.
Yeah, but like yeah, for example, like they sometimes they say like this, but it doesn't mean like yes, or like this is also for the Indians. The Indians have this like
No, yeah.
yeah, which you don't understand if it's yes or no. But like no, I mean the Chinese, so like linguistically it was probably the hardest place I have been, like because 80-90% of people didn't speak English, at least in 2006. And yeah, all the body language was like impossible, and people are very shy, and so like it was hard to actually communicate with, like unless you met like someone who was studying English, basically either my students or like yeah, my boss and stuff like that. And
You stayed there 1 year.
Yeah,
good,
1 year.
Good time, good times, good
I have to
experience.
say, yeah, it was like I was 19 years old. So
And what did you take out of that experience? Like after being 1 year in Shanghai, was it?
Beijing.
In Beijing, you said like, okay, I want to try this now, or after that year, what was on your mind? Like relating to this, like I don't like to say the word professionally, but
yeah,
in that area of life.
Yeah, so like when I got there, I didn't really know. I just knew that I didn't want to go to university and office job like that.
It rarely happens that's like you already know out of the gate out of high school. Like
but wait, I have lots of friends that they knew ever since they were like, I don't know, 14. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be blah,
no, exactly.
blah, blah.
But I would say it rarely happens that you know that this university thing is not for me. I don't want to go.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially I think like Fede has a similar upbringing to us, because Italy in a way is similar to Argentina, because Argentina is similar to Italy, and everybody's going to university. And for at least in my personal case, I was never excited to go to college. But I never really entertained the possibility of like, this is not a must thing to do. You know what I mean? While you apparently did, just because you felt it. Was it a gut feeling or any book?
Yeah, not much more than that. Like I was like a young stupid kid like you are at 19, and like, but I knew that I didn't like, the whole thing. I was already like in my rebel phase, you could say. And so yeah, in my school, I guess like in Argentina, they would do the orienteering. Like they would say, yeah, what do you want to do next? And people would talk, I want to go and study like psychology. I want to go and study, economics. And I told them, I don't want to go to university. I want to be a sailor. So my dream at that point, which was a bit romantic, like was not really like business mind. It was more like an idea I got from books and stuff like that. And so my idea was that going in the South Seas and being a sailor. And so in China, I didn't do that. I actually went to office, even if it was like a very few hours a week, because I was paid a lot of money, and that money was like, yeah, I was rich for like Chinese standards. And but after that, I actually went to Australia where my dad was living, and
Cool.
I
In which
started
city?
in Perth, like Western
Ah,
Australia.
great. I've been
Yeah.
there.
Oh well,
Yeah, yeah,
my
yeah.
si-
I stayed like for 5 months on the Margaret River region,
oh yeah, yeah,
like
the
two
where
hours away.
the wines are
Yeah.
made. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so my dad was living there since I don't know, like few years, and I went and spent like a few months there, and I took my scuba diving certificate, like yeah, like dive master, like assistant instructor thing, and I started doing my sailing certificate.
Ah, cool.
And so I basically, yeah, I became a skipper. And after that, so my career was doing the skipper. I did some experience in Europe, and then I did.
Sorry, how long did it took for you to become a skipper?
So
You know, it took me like a couple of months with barely learning. So
No, no,
maybe
I know I know
maybe he
because
did it more seriously. Maybe he did it more seriously.
I mean, I don't know what the sort of certificate that you have, like Diego.
I have a RYA
paper boats.
yacht master
Offshore.
coastal. Not even offshore. I have coastal.
Okay. Well, I did the offshore, but it was like basically the same thing.
Yeah.
The only thing I had to do was like some mileage. So I had to do like, I don't really remember, but like a lot of miles.
Like
To
I
log
think
in a
like
lot of miles.
400, 300, something like that. You have to
More,
more?
like something like I don't know, 8,000, like something huge. So like to do that,
8,000 is it's a lot because I think the
maybe
to go all
4,000.
around the world is
Okay.
40K.
40K. Yeah. Well, it was a high number because I had to do like a trip, which basically was half a circumnavigation of Australia. So I started from Sydney, the other side, and over the top, I went to Perth.
Ah, cool. So you went all the area from Darwin,
Exactly.
where the Diego, the water over there is like turquoise,
Yeah.
fluorescent. It's
Yeah, I
like
imagine.
insane.
You,
But
you,
you
you
know,
go out of the barrier reef. You go like
yeah, but you know what's the
out
worst
of it.
part? You cannot go in.
Exactly. For the jellyfish, the sharks,
And
the crocs.
the salt, the salt crocs.
Yeah, even the coral like cuts you and
Yeah,
everything
but
was
dude, if you're in the water and a salt crocodile arrives,
Exactly.
like it's a fucking
Ga-
dinosaur of
game over.
8 meters.
Game
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Wait, for the people who don't know, this is to be a captain of boats, a skipper. So to get different licenses, sometimes you have to do different exams and certifications, and they would ask you have a minimum of some miles on you, like you were on a boat while the boat was traveling, basically getting miles or kilometers on the water, like nautical miles on you, which is something that sometimes people pay for. Like if you want to bring your boat, I have a friend here who has a boat in Barcelona, brought it to Greece to work the season now in the summer. He can say, hey, I'm doing this trip, it's this many miles, who wants to get these miles, come help. So some people would even pay you for you to let them on your boat so they can rack up those miles and then they can keep going with their career. So Fede was doing all these trips to get better certifications and to work as a sailor. All of this I did not do, and I just went to Venice and I lied and I said I have more than 300 miles, and I did the exam and I passed, and then I could work in Croatia and Greece and all of those things. But this is another story.
Save it, bro. But Fede, how this was like what, 1 year to get the skipper license?
Even less. Like I had done, I think my first course before going to China. And in the summer, like before going to China. And then, so when I went back to Australia after China, I did like the second course and basically this long trip. And then I did my yacht master certification. So like in basically 6 months, But it was like intensive. Like I did just that for a few months. I did the trip, which took more than 1 month, in fact, like a couple of months to do it. And then I did the yacht master course, which basically is just a few days.
Before that, did you have knowledge of sailing at all?
Very little. I started like, so my dad went to Australia like a couple of years or 2-3 years before I went to China. So when I still was in high school. And when I went there in the summer, my dad shared with me this dream of becoming a sailor. So he actually did all the yacht master, even did some like commercial certification, like to work on the big like cargo ships and stuff.
Yeah, he was taking people to a bay and back.
Yes.
Also
he did like he did like in the north, I think, north of Western Australia. Yeah, he did some crazy things. Like he basically was working in the consulate. He dropped that job, and he like for a few years he worked as a sailor. Like he did the mechanician in a pearl fishing boat or something like that. He was very proud of that. And yeah, I mean, so and then he went back to his like office job after like a long break, let's say.
We can edit this part out for the podcast.
Yeah,
we don't need to.
Maybe he didn't have the podcast at that time, so
exactly.
he ended up going back.
It's funny because when I went to do my yacht master certificate in Venice, I stayed at Vittore's Fede's dad's name. I stayed with them and I saw Fede also, and then I'm here to do the certificate. Like I knew he sailed and he did some work in Australia, but and then he turned out to be like a RYA ocean, instructor, had the certificate. So like everything that I was learning, he like knew in his sleep. I was like, I'm here to do this exam. I have the ocean. You're doing the little thing to go around the coast.
Yeah. I was asking you this because I mean, I don't have a clue at all about sailing world, and when I don't know, I didn't think that to become a sailor it was something like of 1 year. Like maybe at first, to be honest, I thought that maybe you had to be like 3 years.
Yeah, right. or like born like on a boat.
something like that. Right. When we haven't talked about this on the podcast yet, but when Diegote told me about when he learned to be a skipper, I was surprised. Like, but it only took leaving aside the fact that Diegote did those things.
No, I exaggerated. But I had the same, train of thought. I was there in Croatia on this trip with the yacht week, and I saw all the captains, the skippers of the boats, and my thinking was, I love to do this, but it's too late. Especially the guy that I had on my boat. I was with my friends on a boat, and we had a Swedish guy that knew how to sail since he was 3 years old. Right. So you could see. Yeah. So my thinking was like, oh, this is impossible to do. But then I started to talk to other captains, and you see there were like crazy people that, I had no idea what a sail was a year ago. And they were doing it. And then, so that's when I was like, oh, if this guy can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. Well, but that's why I like to talk about this, because maybe lots of people are saying, how do you become a skipper? You have to have a lot of free
because
time.
he knew on his father put him on a boat, and he was no, anybody can go and learn. He did intense. It's intense if you do it in a few months, but I did on weekends on over a year in Buenos Aires near Jet nightclub.
Yeah. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's something you have to learn and do some practice before you can do it, like some big thing like an ocean crossing, but still, of course, like anything, if you start as a kid, it's better. Like it becomes like a second skin. It's natural and stuff. But if you're like my dad, I don't want to go back to that, but like he learned and he was adult. He was like 40, 45 when he started. Okay. Right. So like, I mean, I learned in a few months, and then I started to do all my practice. So I, like back in Europe, I did like a season with like some rich guys, motor yacht in Sardinia. didn't like that too much. It was
Why?
experience and like money, which when you're like 20 something, it's a good thing. And so yeah, I did all that thing. I did some experience in Thailand. I did some experience in Europe, like a little bit of like some deliveries. Um, I kind of projected a career in being a skipper when I was 20 something. But then at some point, like I changed, partly because I had like an affair with a girl here in Italy, and so I had to stop doing the skipper for a couple of years.
Because
And
you move around too much. Yeah, you have to deliver a boat. You
yeah, I mean, as a like young guy, I didn't mind that, but it happened to stop. I happened to stop for that reason. And then I started considering different things. I still didn't like the office life, but I also thought that to settle down with a girl, for example, like being a skipper professionally, that's a hard thing to do, like to reconcile the two things. So
I
then
agree. That's what happened to me here. That's why I have
exactly.
living in the same apartment with Kelly, the girl, and I stopped the sailing.
Exactly. I mean, it's very hard, especially if you do it like professionally, and then you have to like do it 2 seasons a year. So it's almost impossible. So I started to look into like alternative ways, let's say, to live on land, like lifestyles on land.
You were. I know office is not a thing I'm willing to do. What else? How can I live without going to the office? That was the idea.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
what
so,
about the office? What did you, or do you think is unacceptable for you, or is it a you the few times you were in the office and this you had a feeling I had to get out of here, or is it like the what do we do with the time we have here on this land, looking for glory like the Romans? What is the all the mechanics in your brain?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm just bored quickly of that routine. I can do it. I did it, but like for a few months, and after that, like the impossible thing for me is like to visualize myself doing this for my whole life. Like that is like it would depress me. It would like almost kill me. So like I can do it. I can do everything for a few
Yeah.
months, but then I have to like change and think I have to do something more exciting. So basically, of course, like as you grow up, you start thinking, I have to do some commitments. Uh, and yeah, around like 25, I was thinking of like how can I, live like kind of settle down somewhere, but without having to live like this like city office life, which I really don't like, and which even in a perspective of having a family or thing, I don't want to raise my kids there. I don't want to, and so I started looking into basically eco villages and stuff like that. And I tried. My first experience was in the South America, like in the Andes, as I told you.
Sorry, Freddy, to interrupt, but I
No.
want to go back just a few minutes. This thing that we were talking about, like that is hard to see yourself like in doing this thing for 5, 10 years. Do you guys reckon that people who actually, because honestly, when the times that I've been on interviews and they ask me, how do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh my God.
I'm like, dude, come on, what kind of question is this?
Oh.
That's right.
But
Hopefully
I'm
not
honest.
answering questions like this again.
But it happened to me one of the over the last year that I had a few interviews. That I was when they asked me that question one time, I said like, that question doesn't make sense. Like, and especially now that we always talk about Nassim Taleb, Diegote, after reading that book, is like it's even stupider that you ask me this because like what do I know? Because if I look back 5 years and where am I now? Like 5 years ago, I would never have thought that I was going to be making this podcast talking with with you, Fede, that you're the cousin of Diegote, that actually we've never met on person. We
Yeah,
met
I've never met him.
virtually. So
Okay.
it's what kind of question is that? Do you guys think that the people who answer that question truthfully, they are like how we say in Spanish in Argentina, selling smoke, like selling like fugazi? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, fair enough. I think, especially now, like with what is going on the last 2-3 years, the world is more unexpectable, and it's really hard to predict what's going on in the next 1 or 2 years, let alone like 10. So like for a young person, like to think of a career and plan 10 years ahead, it's really, really hard,
Yeah.
more than it used to be. Again, here in Italy, I don't know, like I know that in the UK, the US, it's different, but here we still have the mentality of like, having the fixed job, we call it, like
Yeah,
so the
the
fixed
stable
job. Yeah, so you
in
get one
Argentina.
job in your hometown, you get a house near your mom's and dad, and then that's your life. uh, that stable job, that fixed job is your career, your whole life. Okay, so people actually were looking for something like that still when I finished high school. Like people, things are changing, the flexibility of the workplace. It started, slowly crawling in Italy as well. So but still people, it's not very common in Italy to like switch job and change cities, for example, as it is in the US, where you
Right.
can, say, live 5 years in New York, then move to California, then move to Texas, and move house and job multiple times in a lifetime. It's not like that in Italy. And but it's not even just that. Like for me, it's not even like um I mean, I think my repulsion for the office lifestyle is deeper than just getting the boredom of just having one office. I really don't like the experience. I don't even like the experience of like the consumerist lifestyle. When you're not working and you're at home. I don't know. I never really like it. It always felt me as like not meaningful enough as a life. And I was always trying to look for something, to make my life more meaningful, more colorful. I don't know. So it's like
Yeah.
traveling was one thing for sure. Like for me, like traveling in a certain way, again, like not on the beaten track, like not in tourist resorts
Yeah,
and
not
stuff.
going to Paris and Prague and
Yeah, I mean, I did that also, but
Yeah.
not like the major touristic like itineraries, but just going off the beaten track and having adventures. That's what I
Yeah.
really like.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. Like, if I would say that the things that changed me the most and opened more my mind was all the backpacking travels in Latin America. When I
Exactly.
went to Australia to live there for 2 years and meet different people.
Yeah.
And no, I totally agree that. And the other day I was talking with a couple of friends, and we were talking about how stupid it is that when you're 18, you should be picking your career. And I was definitely saying that the day of tomorrow, if I have kids, I would definitely tell them when they finish high school, go and travel the world like for a year.
Yeah.
I don't know, go and wash some dishes, chop some veggies, and
sail some boats.
exactly. But meet different people, because this really happened to me in Australia. That when I was in Australia, I learned that there are a million different ways of living a life. And back home, it was like going to university, getting an office job,
You
and
get the
trying to
degree. You get the
Yeah.
degree that it lets you be safe in life, which is like a super fallacy. No,
Yeah.
I understand, and it's a little sad that we discovered it so late. Like I left when I was 27, and you too, no, Garza, like around.
I was 27.
Like this is the two things that I'm like in my head now. that are a little bit contradictory. So maybe you two can help me put them in harmony. So I think I was gonna go where Fede went. That I think there's more than just like what your culture is used to or the professional side of it. I think there's like a deeper layer that I don't know if everybody has it. Maybe not everybody has it, and some people cannot even feel it, and they're comfortable with the the professional life and doing the same thing. So the boredom, it may be a thing that we've developed through like millions of years, because humans are destined or made for or evolved for, whatever mystical or not mystical way you want to call it, to explore the unknown. Like you read the books about the Moby Dick, or you read Marco Polo, or Magellan, or people that explored Columbus, people that explored the unknown lands, the unknown technologies, the unknown religious things. The stories are epic for a reason. You don't read about like a guy doing a boring same normal safe job, right? So this is one thing, that you have this like hunger for glory. Maybe Fede has it in his genes more than us because of this Roman Empire genes. But kidding aside, this I think lives in the human DNA or heart or soul or whatever you want to say. So this on one hand, and on the other hand, what I've kind of discovered for myself this last couple of years, I used to think more like I wanted to be a movie producer, or I wanted something big / famous. I didn't want like a normal office job, but also I didn't want like a quiet life kind of thing. So I wanted to live in London, New York, Tokyo, Buenos Aires, Rome. But the last couple of years, I've given a lot of like value, and I discovered a lot of value of living a normal, chill life, which goes against the first thing I just said, which is the human nature for hunger of glory and epic things and travel and adventure, which I also have. So I feel like these two things are kind of like they contradict each other. None of these two things go towards office work, but they're two very different things. So what do you guys think?
I think that in a way it's true, but it is also really different between each person, right? Because as you were saying, like there are a lot of people who are comfortable in an office job, and they are hunger. They have I don't know how to say it. They're hungry of like going up,
climbing the ladder.
This professional ladder. But I'm gonna go with something that Fede was saying before, that I really believe it happens to me a lot. For example, when I was living in Argentina before going to live in Australia for 2 years, I had this fire within. Like I cannot put it in words. It's not rational. It's like something inside me that was telling me, dude, you have to leave. Like you have to go and make this adventure and see what happens. And I think that is something that when I was younger, maybe I was proud of being more rational. But nowadays,
same.
Nowadays, I feel like gut feeling is everything, man. Like I haven't made one decision wrong with the gut feeling, honestly, because something went maybe ended up being not right, but it wasn't wrong either. But the feeling that I have working a job that doesn't give me anything, chasing other people's dreams, and being bored, it's like this gut feeling is like my energy is draining, But with something different, you say, okay, this fire within, I have to try this, and then you try and said, okay, you're not, you don't regret that decision. Maybe you regret when you put aside that
fire. I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's like that. I mean, planning in human life, like if you try to plan rationally, the thing is, it's impossible, because there are too many things that can happen, too many variables, that like the planning is useless. Of course, like rationality has its use, okay, but I agree, like certain decisions you have to take with the intuition, or like the fire, as you call it. The fire basically already like how can I say, it rests on the rationality. So the rationality already excludes certain possibilities that, you know, are impossible or things like that. But then, you know, the value choice between what you really want to do, what's important for you, that the rationality doesn't give you. The rationality can give you, like, can tell you, okay, this job gives me more money and that gives me less. But the fact is that in life, again, like, you don't know what's going to happen. So if you take a decision and you know, that decision will take to another decision, you cannot like, it's not like chess where, like, if you're a good player you can predict like 10 moves ahead. In life there's so many variables. Even if you are like really good at it, you're never going to be able to like predict what's going to happen in like just like a few weeks time. So um again, it's true that in the urban, like, city life, like, people are actually trying more or less consciously to live in a, like, such a life in which, like, the unpredictable is always kept aside. So people live like with routines, and so that the unpredictable has a like really narrow door to get inside your life. But as soon as you go outside and you travel and you accept that adventure, then you see how, you know, how rich life can be and how unpredictable in a good way. Like, so that whatever your expectations are, you know, life is 10 times better, 100 times better. So yeah, and regarding what Diego was saying about, you know, the contradiction, apparent contradictions, because, you know, like, trying like the adventure, like the explorer gene, and you know, then learning to appreciate a quiet life. um I don't know. I have this contradiction too, because, like, on one side, I didn't do it for glory, I guess, but maybe a little bit, like we all do. But, like, so the adventure side was really strong in me. While now I'm also starting to feeling, and like getting a house in the mountains is surely like a step in that direction. I'm starting to reconsider like the quiet life. The quiet life doesn't have to be, again, like the working at the office. Uh, like, living in the mountains has a lot of unpredictable sides. So, like, you can go like explore, you know, the surroundings in the mountains. It's beautiful. You have all like that novelty, that sense of exploring that you have also if you go to another country, for example. At the same time, you do start building some routine, like you have a fixed base. And I think, you know, that is also a need, a deep need for the humans, you know, especially as you grow older. I mean, that is a cliche, but it's true that
Yeah.
like, you cannot do the explorer like forever. And there are some other important things in life. One is like having a relationship, from like with a girl, and with like a woman or a family. And if you find that, then there is a value
In committing and cutting
in
your
committing
options
and stability. Yeah. So
and
then you
cutting
have to
your options short.
compromise. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, compromise in that sense is not bad. Like, I think we do have to find a compromise between that, you know, exploring and, you know, hunger for novelty and adventure, and commitment to what you then really understand that you value, you treasure, and committing to that, and, you know, doing what it takes to make it happen. So
Yeah.
yeah, that
Well,
compromise.
yeah, sorry. In a way, uh, this plan of buying a house in the mountains, it's also an adventure in a way.
Yeah, it is, it is.
At
Actually,
least for a
there's a
couple, at least for a couple of years. At least for a couple
there
of
is
Yeah,
years.
a yeah. There is a great book that probably, I don't know if you guys know, but it's really well known. Walden
Holland.
from
Yeah.
Henry David Thoreau.
Yeah, I
Well,
know.
and this I'm rereading it now, and yeah, the book is about a guy that builds a shelter, a small house, a cabin
Okay,
in the
in the
woods,
woods.
and he explains, like, he talks about this life off the grid, in the half 19th century.
Exactly.
Where is this? Where is the book?
What
And where does it take place?
In northeastern America.
Yeah.
Like New England kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, on the area around Boston, New York. I don't know precisely
New
where,
Hampshire, Maine. Yeah.
but it's something like that. Actually, if you Google Lake Walden, it's gonna appear where it is.
Okay. I'll read it. I haven't read it.
Yeah, it's good.
It's interesting because the off the grid house in the mountains or house wherever, grow your own vegetables, it helps escape what Fede said before, the consumerism, and it solves a little bit the problem of having to work, because we, like, from the city urban life, you are used to thinking, oh, I have to be generating salary and money all the time to pay for rent, for example, or for other things that you just like spend money, like moving on the subway, eating out, the movies, all the things that the consumerism in the city brings you, that it makes you spend money. So you can, it's hard to take the chip off your head of salary or like completely generating money. While if you have the house in the mountains that you own and you're building most of your food or growing most of your food, and that those are non problems for you, because this is what are you doing? Because I was in Argentina now and people are asking, what are you doing for work? And then everybody, that when I tell them that I changed jobs, they get worried because they're like, oh my God, you're changing jobs. You are not, you must be doing something wrong. So for Fede, it's even like deeper, a bigger contradiction, because for him, these are not problems. Like, oh my God, what are you doing for money? Well, the house is mine and the food is coming from here. So what you do with your day to day, he has a completely different list of like to do things and problems that like a average person in the city.
Well, actually, precisely this is something that Thoreau talks about in his book.
Yeah.
Precisely this, like he
copied me. He copied me like
he does like this, like sum of all the things that he spent, and I don't know, it's $40, let's say, of that time, right?
Yeah.
But he ends up saying like this, you can with working freelance 4 days, you get this, and you can live 6 months. Like, I don't know precisely the correlations, but he talks precisely about this.
Yeah.
And it's true, man, because, well, in the end, it's all part of this rat race, because you want more to have this more, and you're in this whole network of people who are like doing the same as you, but then it's off the grid to be growing your own vegetables. It sounds a little weird, right?
It's a good example now with gas prices being super high in America. A lot of people are saying, hey, it's almost not worth it for me to use my car with fuel to go to the office and work, because the fuel then is so expensive that I'm just working to pay for the gas that I use to commute. So here you have it very clear. This is in one commodity price. But maybe we're talking shit. Fede, how's the reality of all of this?
No, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, for sure, like, yeah, Walden, like Thoreau was talking about this stuff like more than a century ago, and of course, like he inspired a lot of people. And there is this whole counterculture which I found like traveling around, growing basically like at the margins of the system, of people thinking like that. And of course, my hope was and still is that this, marginalized people actually get together and create some sort of, not like hostile, but like not in hostility with the conventional world, but like parallelly, they create a sort of alternative world. Because really, it's true that you can live like in a log in the woods and stuff, and it's great. But unless you want to be like you commit yourself to a life of like spiritual retreat or whatever it is, like humans are meant to be with other humans, right? So we need that, and this is what I think brings people then to the cities. Like historically, of course, like the work and the lure of like all the comforts and stuff, but like people don't want to be outside of off the grid because they fear of being alone, being marginalized. a lot of people fear to make that step because they fear, what am I gonna do? You know, I'm gonna get bored, they think, you know, in the woods. I heard a lot of people, you know, telling me that, like, how do you pass your days and stuff like that. So I mean, of course, people in the cities, actually a lot of people are afraid, I felt like in my life, of being alone. They're not able, like, even to stay with themselves for a little while, like, because they are constantly, you know, there's so much output, you know, the TV, the radio, the stuff. People are not comfortable of staying with themselves, with their thoughts, for example, or their feelings. So this is like first step, which is in fact is very important. Even when you travel, you travel to a different country, you have all that outgoing thing of meeting new people, but you also have those moments of reflections, like when you're alone, maybe in a country like China where nobody speaks your language, and you have those like moments of inward, you know, in which you basically digest all the new things that you do outside. And so, like, living in the mountain, yeah, it's like you were saying, Matthias, is an adventure. Like, I learn new things every day, and it's never the same. Like, now I'm doing like the spring garden, and I love it. Like, yesterday I worked like preparing the ground for that, and yeah, so like the only thing that I really miss, and it's not like something uncomfortable, but something I look forward to, is of creating like a community with more people to share this life with. Because, like, as that guy, you know, living in the wild would say, it's true that the good things are better when shared,
Right.
something like that.
Yeah,
No,
the
so,
cliches for a
yeah,
reason.
but this
Yeah.
is true. Like,
Sure.
it's good to share this with others, and for that, so I think, like, yeah, we need to build like some sort of infrastructure on one side, and cultural, like a different story, an alternative narrative, let's say, to the one of the mainstream, so that we can actually, you know, inspire people to do the same step, even if the step is not like 100% easy, and people that are used to living in the city will find it a bit hard at the beginning. But then you know, the good thing they will get out of that is like overwhelmingly bigger than the sacrifice you have to do. This is, you know, my opinion, at least.
No, no, but I think I agree, and I believe also that well, with this thing about the pandemic and all that, I think a lot of these mind changes are like accelerating,
Yeah.
and a lot of people are starting to wonder, like, precisely this, like, okay, life is this unexpected, so why do I think that by doing this I'm safer in a way, like, but
True,
no.
true, true, true.
I think Diego said it the other time. Like, what is riskier, to be doing exactly the same thing all your life, expecting to work in that company always, or trying different things? So if something happens, like, because this guy, if he's 50 and he gets fired, what the fuck is he gonna do after it? I mean, he can do lots of things, but probably in his mindset, he will be like panicking. Like, I do not know how to do anything else.
I was telling a friend of my dad's. We had dinner one of the last days I was in Argentina, and his daughter has her own enterprise. She sells clothes. She's doing very well. And he was asking about my jobs, and he was saying that what I was arguing for, that was try different things, was gambling. But everything is gambling. Like you're betting with everything you do with your life and your day-to-day. Like, I'm gambling. I'm betting that the roof is not gonna fall on my head. I'm betting that the architect that built this and the workers did it correctly. So you can everything. You're betting if you're doing something with your time and your attention, you're not doing the other thing. So you are giving a percentage of success, whatever your success is, to all your actions. Everything is gambling. So when you take when you go to university, and then when you take your first, second, third job, and then you stay for a long time, or if your only thought is like keep the job, whatever the job is, I have to keep the job. So you're gambling, and you're gambling worse than me, because you are gambling.
You're going all in.
You're going all in in one option. So like you're through the dice. This is from you, Garza. Like you're betting everything on one roll of the dice. Like if you try different things, you are rolling dice more times. And then if you get a result that you like, maybe you double down and you like stay longer, or it springs up another thing. What is riskier? I don't know. And I lost focus on the camera. But another thing that came up when Fede was talking now, that I think came up with Danny, the last podcast with her yoga business, is the problem of scale, the problem of size of things. You know, like the city is too much connectivity, too many people. So I get out of the city. But if you get out of the city and you're by yourself, it's too little connectivity and amount of people. So now Fede said, like, maybe we can build something parallel, and people that do this thing are more comfortable doing it because they're also in contact with other people. But then if that succeeds and it's always optimized for growth, like the world we live in now, and I don't want to sound like a communist. I hate, like, already, like, I can feel my the other part of my brain saying, "What are you saying?"
Actually, on your screen, it started to appear a hammer and an axe.
A Mao hologram here. But yeah, if you optimize for growth, then the scale gets out of hand, and then you have the same problem that you had when you started the revolution. You know, you live, you die a hero, or you live long enough to become the villain. So this is also
in fact, you know, the communists, we're not against the growth paradigm. We're just making it like collective. So instead of like the individual like striving for growth, or the corporation, like they were striving for like the collective, but they were always striving for growth. So the antithesis to that is you know, a distributed world of people, which are basically firstly trying like to survive, of course, because the problem with the growth paradigm is that it's not sustainable. I mean, this is also cliche nowadays, but it is. I mean, of course, you cannot grow forever in a limited world. And if you try to do that, you're going to make, you know, big troubles because at some point, you know, you're going to blow up the whole thing. So yeah, I mean, the alternative paradigm is one where instead of quantity, like growth in quantity, you put the growth in the quality. So like the life in the city on so many levels is bad. And as you were saying, Matthias, like now with the coronavirus and all that is coming after that, it's getting even worse. You know, because the kind of control and that is needed in modern society, it's really it's becoming like really like a Chinese sort of
totalitarian
states. Yeah, because like probably, you know, this is what is needed for like a global society to maintain itself and function properly. But then if that is the case, then, you know, fuck that.
I think not, but they're going to try to put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, they think, I mean, the elites probably think that this is the best way to manage, you know, a global society.
No,
well,
maybe
for
they
them,
think,
but
maybe
also
they think, yeah,
for the environment or stuff like that. So they will say, you know, how can we manage 7 billion people in a way that, you know, everyone has a bit of their share and we don't destroy the environment. We have to control them. We have to know exactly what they do. We have to tell them exactly how much meat can they eat every week, how much gas can they use every week. So this is the idea of a technocracy, like a system in which, like a system of experts or like computer algorithms will decide exactly everything you have to do in your life. And this is, I mean, on one side, I also don't like these people, but this is in on some level unavoidable, because we've got into a society which is unsustainable. Like the whole thing we live through our childhoods and like adult life, like is a model in which like we consume so much, it's really unsustainable. So the only way to sort of give it another 50 years, 100 years, is to make it like that.
You know, I'm gonna, I have to say that maybe in some point they disagree,
Uh-huh.
because I mean this theory. I mean, already Malthus talked about this,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah,
he was
yeah,
so
yeah.
wrong. And I'm going to explain why, in my opinion, or from what I have read. The school of thought that I like, that is the Austrian economics school of thought,
Yeah.
they talk a lot about this, and the so-called experts and the algorithms that say that the people that they want to predict. I mean, we were talking like just half an hour ago that it's impossible to predict. Uh, so these called experts, like what happened to Malthus, that said, he said, okay, if the population grows exponentially and the food grows, I don't know how to say it,
Linear,
but
linear.
yeah, linear,
Linearly,
linear. There will be a problem,
It won't
and
be enough.
I
It
don't
won't
know,
be enough
1/5 of,
resource, food or whatever
yes.
resource. Yeah.
But you know what was the problem of Malthus?
New, new technology
Exactly,
appears, and
exactly.
then
It
The
didn't
creative mind of the
creative.
human. Because
Yeah.
let's say, for example, I'm gonna put like an example that is gonna be polemic, but I'm gonna put it either way. For example, before someone realized that you could make an engine work with oil,
Hmm.
right? What happened to the oil in Texas? It was called the Black Curse, because
Uh-huh.
you
Yeah.
couldn't grow anything there. So this is the thing. If you don't expect that, the biggest asset the human has is his creativity. So one day someone said, "Hey, if we use this to make this, then we can critique like all the shit, and we can. That's a different subject about if it's true that the fossil fuels are really making global warming, and that's a whole different debate. But that's the good thing. Like if you try to predict things to the future without taking in consideration the creativity of the human mind, it's
Yeah,
impossible.
it's like you're nitpicking what variables to
Exactly.
keep
Yeah,
and what
yeah, yeah.
variables that are variables and what constants you keep when the constants might not be constants. But let me see if I can try to like what's the word, like summarize or like find common ground here. But I think that what Fede was saying wasn't only environmental. You know, it's the whole system, like economic, environment, earth, resources, interconnectivity. So I think that
Yeah,
that's
but
also an
sorry,
expert. Yeah,
but with
yeah.
the resources,
No, but
like
I
it
agree
is
with what
true
you're
that
saying. Like,
that
so like,
physically we have lower resources physically,
Hmm.
yes.
but economically that's not true.
Yeah.
So
This was the argument of like you can you remember me? What was the
yeah,
guy that
Kuznets and Simon.
Simon, that's right. So these economists who were like in a debate with Ehrlich, right?
Yeah,
The guy that was championing the Malthusian.
yeah, yeah. You're right,
Yeah,
Simon and Ehrlich. Yes.
Simon and Ehrlich. Yeah. So they had this big bet. I think the bet
Yeah,
of
The
the
bet,
century or
the bet of the
something.
commodities and the
Yeah,
prices.
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Yeah.
and
So
the
yeah,
prices.
I know about that. Like, so I agree. Like on one side, I think Simon had a point, and he won that bet. Again, like, so they were betting if like, because like Ehrlich like wrote the population bomb, in which he was in the 60s, he was predicting that the population would double, and that would bring famines, in a very like Malthusian like
Which
way
is a
of
little
thinking.
bit coming back now. I keep seeing articles
It
of
is
saying have
coming back.
less kids,
I
there's no more
talked.
room.
We
The,
talked about this the other day.
yeah, I saw one. They also bring all the isms in play, like it's racist to have kids because you are promoting
Exactly,
further
exactly.
white supremacy. There's a big push for this again now.
So
Sorry.
it's like without a doubt, the elites. This is like what was what I was trying to convey. They buy into this view,
Hmm.
that the Malthusian one, like with some nuances for sure. Malthus was writing a lot of time ago, but with nuances. But they buy into that view, and I find the Simon counterpoint interesting, but I must say, and this is like a very difficult and very important point of debate, I'm not totally convinced if we want to like delve into this, like, because for example, it's true, like human ingenuity and creativity and new technologies So this is this changes the whole picture. So people can use, can like Simon's argument was, people can see into like the crisis as an opportunity, and find ways to turn the problem into a new solution. And that is true to some extent, but it's like my argument, for example, and we were talking about this, Diego, sometime, like the whole approach like this then rests the whole solution, let's say, to human creativity or ingenuity and technology, basically, because basically the only way in which humans can overcome the obstacles is with more technology.
Yeah.
Okay, more efficient technology.
But speaking broadly about technology, like a knife, a machete is a technology.
Yes,
right?
True. So, but it's true that, for example, like to solve a problem like like a global problem, like based on like food, for example, like, so we are more people than before. Like Arlik and all the Malthusians thought we were going to run out of food. That didn't happen, because like we had the Green Revolution, which like tripled the output of food. We have, like, I don't know, GMOs, and we have like, so the GMOs are able to produce even in certain locations where you normally cannot produce. But it's true that, for example, this sort of hacks, I mean, it's very difficult to predict when you create a new technology this big, this invasive, which has huge results. It's true.
GMO is a good example.
GMOs, for example. I mean, I'm not totally against it, but let's say, I mean, at least, they create new problems. So like the more you try to solve like problems with more technology,
because the system is very complex.
And the problems are always more complex. So, and the more you go down that road, basically the more you are relying on technology, and not just on technology in the sense of the actual technology, but the whole apparatus that is behind that technology, which is like the industrial, the think tank apparatus, which is going to create this, like the scientific, which is creating that. So like there is, I think, like and there's like some French sociologists, which I mentioned to you, Diego, like Jacques Ellul, which was also like a mentor to the likes of like Ivan Illich and people like them. Like they were warning humanity already, like in the 50s, okay, about like this blind alley of relying too much on technological progress and solving some problems, but on the way becoming more and more reliant on this technology to the point of becoming slaves of it. Like, so if technology is the only way of solving our problems, and then so technology functions like in a very pragmatic way. So technology, the only thing that is valuable for technology, like for technology and a technological outview, is efficiency. So then we get back into this view of like the technocrats, which basically at some point, they could start saying, okay, but then the humans, they're not as efficient as we might want. Why don't we make them more efficient by putting this implant and make them like more efficient? Or why don't we substitute them completely with like robots that actually do what they're told, and they never had to go for a pee break? So like it's tricky, because if on one side I agree it's impossible to predict, and the Malthusian like predictions have been proven wrong like times and times again. At the same time, relying only on human ingenuity regarding technology, it's also tricky, because I think it makes us completely reliant on technology and technological progress. Well, like what I was trying to argue is that basically we need a different mindset regarding growth. And this is more like a cultural revolution. Is more, it's not the Malthusians what the elites are trying to do and putting like all this like controls, but it's basically saying at the end we don't want, we don't need all these things. We need only certain things. We have to put like some limits to our aspiration materially and focus our progress and aspiration on the quality of life instead of the
I really understand, but the thing is like how can you because how can you define what other people want to have, like morally speaking, like what are, I don't know, you don't have any power talking like people like us who are like
Yeah, like you
they don't
gotta
want to
talk to
control.
the World Economic
Yeah.
Forum about this.
Yeah, so that's for example nowadays like India, I think India is one of the countries that generates more
Pollution.
greenhouse effects
Yeah.
and blah blah blah. But and the European or America are telling them, hey, you don't have to be like polluting that much. Like, who the fuck are you, man? Like you've been
Yeah.
so. And the other thing that I want to say
Well,
is,
because they have a lot to gain, maybe from
yeah,
from yeah.
but that is not like economic system. It's like these fucking technocrats who are like trying to. That's why I fucking hate politicians.
No,
But
it's also a problem of what you said. Like, who are you? It's a problem of like what's the word? Jurisdiction a little bit, because
yeah,
they can't. The earth is the same for everybody, but maybe you have all your basic needs, whatever you want to call the basic needs, solved there in Europe or in America. And
Sure.
who are you, European America, to tell the Indians who like maybe not solve those problems as for basic sustenance? Who are you to tell them, hey, can you pollute a little bit less? Yeah, man, let me pollute whatever I want to pollute. I have to pollute to meet my basic needs, to have your quality of life or half of your quality of life. So like I get your point, and that's like a jurisdiction
But
kind
this
of
is
like
why
argument.
the technocrats are pushing for a world government, because all these problems can be solved only at the
that's
level
the
like
worst
that
thing
is
that could
supra
happen.
government. Yeah, but
Yeah,
this is what they want, because I mean these problems, if you have different nation states with like different levels of development, is that then how, again, yeah, how can like the developed say to the developing, hey, stop developing?
Yeah.
We have done this a
Stay,
century
stop
before.
growing, stop growing.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
but bring it even like to a lower level, like your neighbor. I don't know. He likes to listen to, I don't know,
Slayer.
reggaeton. No, because
I wish.
that's
I
good.
wish.
They like to hear reggaeton. You're like, hey, dude, like you cannot be hearing
It
this, man.
sucks.
You're gonna rotten your brains. And
Yeah.
so it's like it's a weird and one. I would like to go back one thing. Um, this thing about what you were saying, Fede, about like the technology brings like maybe a deeper problem behind.
Or
An
more
And
addiction,
or
an
more
addiction.
dependence on the
yeah, but I think that there's truth in that argument, and also there's a part that because there's a truth. For example, did you guys know that the plastic arrived because there was a problem with glass? Like, the people were saying like, hey, we have too much glass. What are we gonna do with all this glass? So someone, okay, let's start doing plastic. And plastic now it's like
what are we
far
gonna do with
worse.
this plastic? Yeah.
Yeah. But on the other hand, someone could argue this, for example, with GMOs. I'm not here to defend GMOs because honestly, I don't know shit about that subject. But let's say that supposedly, thanks to those artificially genetically modified crops, you can feed way more people, right?
Yeah.
So let's say that, well, this is maybe a new problem, but on the other hand, if this had not had happened, these people would be dead.
Of course, of course. So this is
So,
exactly their
so who
argument.
can? This is what I like, and this is why I cannot
No, it's very
take an
very
opinion.
complex, very complex
Yeah,
to have a
because
position. And I'll throw you even one more in the environment side for Fede's argument that I was thinking now, that with the uncertainty and the variables, if you say, oh, because you have absorbing barriers, you have a point where there's no return for things. For example, let's take the environment and the planet and the pollution. So it's also a risky bet, Garza, on your side, if you say, hey, imagine exaggerating, right? Exaggerating. Don't worry too much about the polluting the ocean, because we, with our creativity, will find a solution to fix it. What if you don't find it, or the probability doesn't happen before you hit the absorbing barrier where you like ruin and completely change the ocean, and it's not an ocean anymore. You understand my point?
Yeah, I understand, but I'm gonna take it really far.
I can tell really this is not the first time you've done this.
No. But let's say this is like saying, imagine the people in the caves, like someone created a lance, right?
A spear.
Yeah. So someone would say, hey, dude, don't create a spear, because you're gonna have to go and fight to a lion, and
you start the whole thing.
So it's
this is precautionary principle. So true. Don't go explore there, because you might meet people with other diseases, and then you wipe us out, like the Europeans wiped out the Native Americans.
Yeah, and this is why we recommend to get an office job.
This is where we come full circle. And then we stop doing the podcast and just like, don't move from your cubicle, stay in the pod, eat the bugs, plug
Stop
to the tubes.
Thinking about these things.
Plug into the tubes.
Don't think too much.
And just live.
And believe the experts.
If you guys have any doubts about anything spoken here, please call your official number and they will explain the truth back to you. And then but no, it's true. It's very, very complex. And then like you go back to the caves, like I don't think that's an exaggeration, because I was speaking with Fede about this also, about what is natural or not natural, and technology. I remember I told you like, hey, like cooking the meat was a technology. So like now, because I was listening to a Balaji podcast, I think, with Tim Ferriss, and he's like super technology pro guy. So I'm usually nowadays anti-technology. So I was like, oh, this makes sense. Like cooking the meat was technology, and you couldn't predict what the cooking the meat was gonna bring. So I started like sending Fede voice notes saying, hey, what about this argument? That's why it's tricky, and you have to go all the way back there, because the natural argument, it's also, we gotta be more natural. Okay, more natural to what era? More natural to when?
So basically the argument from this Elul guy, it was that, I mean, there's nothing wrong with technology as such. So long as technology is a tool. A tool can be a knife, right? But a knife is something that is used by a subject, like a person. But the technology we are getting into now, and like, let's say we started this process the end of like the 19th century, so the Industrial Revolution basically, but then it got bigger and bigger. It's not a tool anymore. Like technology, he used to talk of like a technological system. So like now it's not even like, it's not the technology used by someone else, like with artificial intelligence, but not just that. Like he used like the word techniques. He was French. So he used this word to talk also about, like, for example, propaganda, like government propaganda. So government propaganda is a technique, he would say, So, or like government planning. So like the more the government, for example, is relying on this technique to have results, and it works because it's a technique that works. They use it because it works. Like, for COVID, like the British, they said it out loud, like, we've used some behavioral like psychology in order to scare people into compliance.
Yeah, the CDC said, we said you had to quarantine 10 days because it was what we calculated people would tolerate before going crazy.
So they use behavioral psychology on a mass scale in order to achieve certain results. That works, but the more you use it, the more then you need it, because, for example, if you stop using it, you won't have those results.
And then you're a slave to the thing. Then you're a
slave
to the technique. To the technique.
And so like his argument was that like we're dealing with a different animal here. It's not like the lance or like the spear, or like the knife or
a dictator. It's not even a person. Or like
it's really like a system in which In fact, we are not using the technology anymore. It's become the opposite. Like the technology is using us more and more. Like we are becoming like the used, and technology is become like more important than humans, to the point then that we are discussing, like rational people are discussing, if like humans like need augmentation, need like ameliorating, because we are not efficient enough, we're not like predictable enough, and all these things. So one of his like most notable like disciples, which was Ivan Illich, you might have heard of him. He was like famous because he wore like he wrote stuff like Medical Nemesis, or like the Schooling Society, which was very popular in the 70s. And this guy, like, he wrote a book which I like. It's called like Tools for Conviviality, in which he basically was saying, you know, there is a limit after which the concentration of techniques of technology in all areas of life like becomes too much. I was talking about like medical technology, for example, or hospital, or even education. Like he was saying, there is a point where there's too much of that. And, you know, then of course there are benefits, but then the benefits are outweighed by the the negative effect.
I totally agree.
The systemic negative effect. So he was trying to say, okay, we need to find some limits. It's very hard to do because, as you were saying, like since the primitive times, it's very hard to say, okay, yes, this we will use, or this
let's
not.
stop here.
You know, stop. It's very hard. But this is I think, the challenge of our times. Maybe impossible to solve, but hopefully not, because like humans, I think if we want to survive as humans, we have to learn how to set a limit into the technology and say, okay, technology up to this point is actually enhancing our lives, but past that point, it's actually coming back to us and making us slave of the same technology.
I totally agree, but the thing is, I mean, talking about the society itself, like this has to come from each person, man.
True.
Because what I was saying before, like, who am I to go to the neighbor and tell him like, hey, don't play this music, man?
You cannot.
But yeah, I totally agree. And well, I've talked about this not on the podcast, but well, I have an Instagram account, and a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, I had to delete it because I had like this anxiety attack, but it was like really heavy. And that I started thinking about this. Like, I mean, Instagram, let's talk about this. Like, it's a massive tool because I have a lot of friends who I met during travels and different things that I would never be able to speak to them if it's not through Instagram. But on the other hand, there was a point that it was like, fuck, man, this is making me like, I'm feeling bad. So this is why I say, like, I had to make that decision. But if I go and say, hey, Diego, erase your Instagram, that's like,
yeah, and you know what I'm feeling, and I'm a little bit like scared. It might be a problem of more solvable by gut feeling and individuality than rational. And we're trying to talk about it, and it's a mistake. It's a mistake because you're trying to get with rationale to what it means to be a human, or what the purpose of the human is, or what, you know, and maybe you can't get to that answer with words.
Yeah, it's true. Like we cannot like have a definite answer. Maybe like something what like Illich was trying to do is impossible. Like to set a limit on paper. You have to try it. You have to try
it's
it
kind of
out.
like, it reminds me of you know, how now in like the Americans trying to regulate what's harassment and non-harassment in the workplace, or not in the workplace, you know, and like it's something that, you know, from the streets in Italy or in Argentina, you know, like the limits are the limits, but if you have to like define, am I gonna get shit for this, whatever, but if you have to define like a wink is harassment, it's not harassment, you can't like put it in like hand like words and language. It's something that supersedes, it's above.
But maybe we just need, you know, this shift in mentality again. Like, you cannot impose it to your neighbor. You have to, like, at maximum you can lead by example. Like, you can start, and then you can inspire other people to do the same. But yeah, like, instead of like setting the limit, let's say, on paper for everyone, which seems a bit like, you know, draconian, it's better to try it out, but especially, you know, practice with this new mindset, which is, for example, like, like, I'm not gonna rely on technology on everything. I'm gonna try, like, certain things to do it with the simplest technology possible, and then work my way up and down, and until I find my sweet spot, right? Like, where I find myself comfortable with. So, like, of course, like, let's say, like, tilling the ground. I did it yesterday, no? I was tilling the ground by hand. Of course, a lot of people nowadays, they buy a machine, you know, the machine tiller. I don't know how to say that in English, but, you know, by hand is much more labor involved. True, but it's also, like, for example, it's an exercise. Like, nowadays,
Right.
people go to the gym, but, like, if you do a little bit of work in the fields every day, it's a great exercise. So it's good for your health. You can do it with other people, so it can be like a sociable thing. So
you are in nature, contact with
you're in
nature.
nature, you're in contact, you see little things, you can optimize where the machine, you know, goes only in one way. So,
all of these things you're also, sorry to interrupt, in touch with when you travel. Like, I also, like you two, traveling, I open my mind, and you're traveling and you're out of your element, you're out of your gadgets, and then you find and you discover yourself, and you discover that you don't need a lot of things that you thought you needed. You travel light, you travel with a carry-on, you travel with a backpack. Yeah. And before doing all those travels, you thought you needed all these clothes and a big bag. So this is like same idea.
It's idea. Like getting out sort of the comfort zone. And you know what? So an idea just came to my mind, that with all this that Fede is saying, that I agree that there's a limit to the technology, but in some sort of way, all this system, I hate to say that word, but all this is like getting the people more and more to the comfort zone.
Yeah.
So what you were saying right before, Diego, like, you have to, when you travel, you have to, I don't know, you don't have all your gadgets, your day-to-day gadgets, and you need different tools, and you only get this when you're out of the comfort zone. But if more and more everyone is more in the comfort zone,
like, again, it's a little bit of scale or dosage. What's the right dose of comfort? Because another thing, we speak of like human hunger for glory and exploring and adventure. Another thing might be struggle. Might be that you need some dosage of struggle. If you don't know where your next meal is coming from, then maybe it's too much struggle. Okay, but if everything is too easy, then it's too little struggle. So, like Fede was saying, sweet spot. It might not be the same one for everybody. It might not be the same one for everybody at all times. And maybe you have to wait. Speaking about this, because I don't know how you guys are doing. We're in 2 hours. I could go for like 2 more hours. I don't want to end this without talking about Fede's travels through Egypt and Middle East and other areas with very little gadgets.
And I also, before finishing, I need to ask like 2 very specific questions, but about the veggie patch.
You wanna do your
something? Yeah. I have written it down like before finishing.
Okay, you go.
I go first. Okay. But this has nothing to do with what we were just talking about. But
wait, Fede, you wanted to finish. I interrupted you. You were saying
any idea?
You lost it.
Please,
cool. Yeah, I was wondering because I've never grown my own vegetables yet.
And you are a cook in.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a cook, but I
information.
But my question is, like, for example, you were saying that you, on your winter patch, you had lots of veggies that lasted you lots of times, right?
By freezing them.
Yeah, by freezing them. But my question is, how big is your veggie patch? So, like, for, let's say, how big has the veggie patch to be to feed a person for I don't know, a year or the season of
The
winter
winter
season?
season. So this one, I'm thinking now because I didn't really measure, but I think it's could be like around like effectively like 20 square meters, 25 or something like that. 25.
So 5 times 5.
Yeah, they're like stripes of 1 meter long, and I think they could be like 4 to 5 meter, like 1 meter, like sorry, wide, and yeah, maybe like 4 or 5 meter long, and there are four of these stripes. So yeah, I'd say like 20 to 25 square meters.
Man, it's crazy. Like, do you get the dimension, Diego? Like,
You mean small.
it's small and you
Yeah.
get like food for
Yeah.
the whole winter, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
Yeah. I mean, and I didn't do it perfectly because, for example, I did it a bit late because I had to like do all the work in the summer, and then I managed to plant only like end of August. So this for the mountains especially is a bit late. I was lucky that like the real cold came in late also.
Mm.
So I managed to get almost all the veggies like ready. And but the mistake I did is that I planted all at the same time. So I did like one row of cauliflower, one row of broccoli, one row of lettuce, which like the lettuce came up and there were like, I don't know, like 50 flowers, 50 buds. So I had all this lettuce and it came up all at once, and I never ate so much lettuce, but I didn't eat it all. Like I had to give it to my mom, my uncle, my neighbor, everyone that was passing by. I gave them one, and it was like they were beautiful, big, like chunky, and I ate like I don't know 20 in 1 month. But if I would do it again, I would do it like scaling. Like so you plant like 10, then you wait a week, then you plant another 10, so that basically you get them. I mean,
Yeah.
if you leave them in the ground, in fact, for a month, they stay there. I mean, they are alive, so you can leave them there. But as soon as you take them out, of course, it's salad. It goes off pretty quickly. As for the rest, I found this technique, which is like basically just throw them in hot water, like leave them for a few minutes, just to kill all the germs and stuff, and then get them out, like cool them, and then put them in the freezer. And if you do that, when you get them out of the freezer and cook it, it's still almost as good. Like nothing beats like fresh out of the garden, but
Yeah.
it's pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. I always wondered, like, let's say you have a garden, like how big does it have to be? At least let's say that you don't want to eat everything out of the veggie patch, but I don't know, you have the salads.
Yeah.
So I had a friend he's from Argentina. When he was living in Australia, he rented a room in a house, but there was like this place. It was really small, like a meter times meter and a half, and he planted over there a couple of tomato plants. And dude, I'm not lying, in 2 months, it was like he was heaps of tomatoes. Like, but
You don't
insane,
need
man.
you don't need much. You don't need much. Yeah.
No.
But
Nature is amazing. It's really amazing. Like when you see how much it can produce, like it's astounding at times. And again, then I mean, now I have chickens. They're doing also like I have like 5 hens. They're doing now 1 egg per day each. So I'm having like
Surplus.
30
The surplus
plus
of
30
eggs.
plus eggs per week,
surplus.
which I eat maybe
I'm
six.
starting an egg company.
I
I'm the
also thought
CEO.
that, but then I mean, of course, it's I mean, more than that, it's probably also some work and to clean them. But and it's there could be in the future problems with the food stuff, like the food for the animals. They say, for example, a lot of those were coming from the Ukraine. So now the price is going up for that. But I mean, again, chickens eat everything. And when I talk to my neighbor, who's 92 years old and lives by herself, like next door, she says that half a century ago, they used to give them just, the leftovers from the kitchen. They didn't give them like organic, specific
Alimento
food for,
balanceado,
alimento
balance,
para gallinas. So I mean, chickens are chickens. They are, they come from the dinosaurs. They can eat everything. They're pretty cool animals, in fact.
Yeah, and I love eggs, man.
I also love eggs.
Eat egg is 50% of my diet. 50% of my diet. All my lunches is eggs, 4 eggs.
And fresh eggs, like from like chickens, like they have a big chunk of the garden just for them. They're really good. Even my grandma says like they remind her of her youth.
Well,
success.
Yeah, success.
Winning.
And I also use them. This is something I learned in like the eco villages experience. Like I use them as a tilling machine. So I built like a little like it's called chicken tractor. It's like basically a cage, 2 by 2, like open at the bottom, which I put on like my
land.
On the land, yeah. After I tilled it, and they eat all like the plants, like the infested plants, and they move a bit of the soil as well, and they shit. So they also like
fertilize.
Yeah, they fertilize the soil. So I mean,
synergy. Put it on a PowerPoint. Yeah. Put it on a PowerPoint presentation. We teach them at the MBA.
Today we're gonna see.
It's pretty cool, yeah.
No, that's great. That's great. Actually, that's what I wanted to ask. So the other day, if you want, go for it.
Wait. I have one more because I get shit, and we give each other shit with Garza that we talk very little about money in the podcast. So I want to know now if you have some kind of like budget for your day-to-day of mountain living, because like now the house is yours, right? So what are your like urban man moves to the mountains, like has managed by a house, people figure it out. You get a house in the mountains, and then what are your money concerns? What like is there anything that you are trying to exploit to make some extra money? Everything is covered by the food. Where do you get your meat?
Well, no, I mean, for example, even from my experiences, even if you have like a big finca, it's hard to be like fully self-sufficient in terms of food.
Right.
So there are certain things that you need to buy. And so it's almost a necessity to have at least one money source, I mean, the other thing you could do is getting a system going with your neighbors, and I give you some eggs, you give me something of the other thing, as it used to be. But unless you have that in place, you need a little money. And again, like then you have all the like basic expenses of the house. I don't have gas. I mean, I could, but I didn't attach to gas. I have like this gas tanks for like just the cooking, and all my heating is wood based. So I have like a big camino, like just fireplace in the living room, and I have another one which in the corridor which goes up the stairs, and the one in the living room is channeled and goes into the bedrooms upstairs, so that it channels some heat there. And I mean, I have to say, I'm not like very sensible to cold, but the wood thing, I loved it. I mean, it's more beautiful, and
it's a plan.
It hits you like they say the wood hits you 3 times, because when you get it, when you break it, and then when you put it away, and then when you burn. But no, a part of that, it's very cheap. Like I bought like 800 kilos of wood, of burning wood, which
800 kilos.
Yeah,
like 800
almost a ton.
Almost a ton.
Almost a ton. so like yeah, big truckload.
Leave it there.
So Amazon brings it to you. Amazon delivers
No,
to
no,
you.
just this local lumberjack. He brought it to me. So like I spent for that like I think it was like 10 euros for 100 kilos. So I spent like 400 euros for all this, and I used maybe 20% of this.
For how
And
long? How much time?
for the winter, for the whole winter season,
Ah.
which is long in the mountains, is like from November to March, let's say.
So so all the winter it
I
was
used
80
little
bucks.
because
80 bucks.
I didn't keep it like most of the times during the day. I didn't have it on because yeah, I mean I didn't need it. I was outside the home, but let's say you use double of that, or even like you use it all. You spend like 400
Yeah.
for like 1 year basically, which is like compared to the prices I'm getting like from my mom or people here in Italy, they're having like a 400 euro bill per 2 months. Like my
Oh,
mom just had and that's one person. Okay, one person. She
yeah, that's
is
a lot.
like she is very sensible to cold, so she's always having like
Heating.
Yeah,
the
but
heating
even though
on.
it's
But
lots of money.
400 euros in 2 months.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. So I don't know exactly my budget because now it's still like it's not fully finished. I was just doing like this moving from another house and but I'm trying to keep, let's say this, I'm trying to keep the fixed expenses to as low as possible.
Mhm.
And the other stuff, yeah, like to build my resilience and my independence so that the more I go on, the less I have to buy. And at the same time, I'm looking for like some ways to get in some money. So like some money flows. I'm looking at some jobs I can do from a distance, like some translating job, for example.
Yeah.
And then in the
Did you
mountains,
consider teaching again? Like teaching?
yeah, I mean there it's either I do it like with the computer distant teaching, but it's not very I don't really like it, or I
Okay.
could do it like some tutoring for kids. I mean I'm a bit isolated there. It's not like impossible to go down to the city. It takes like 1 hour, so it's like commuting if you live in New York or like, but it's a mountain city, and in the winter it can get icy. It's a bit
Yeah.
tricky, and I don't have a car. For now I'm moving by scooter. So, and this is also because I want to keep like my fixed expenses low for
Yeah.
now, until I have like at least a stream of income. I don't want to get like a car and have all the expenses like from the car.
Yeah. Between
But
the
in the future,
insurance.
I'm positive. I know it's both that I am able to like create a network of like-minded people around me, and that I can find like some job to get the money I need to pay like the fixed expenses. Yeah.
And
No, yeah,
the
that's
the
cool.
gelato when you go to Reggio Emilia.
Yeah, for example.
The gelato when you go to and this kind of stuff. Okay. Do you wanna finish with the travel story? Or we have Steam. We have Steam.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
so
I mean,
the first time I met Fede, I don't know if he was coming from that, but the number one thing that surprised me about him is that he kept talking about a trip that he made for, I think it was a couple of months, a lot of it in Egypt and a part of the Middle East. I think some Cyprus was involved.
yeah, but
yeah.
It was more than 2 months. It was like so basically it was I left after like some experience in the summer at some eco village in Europe, like the Pyrenees and stuff. I decided for some reason I'm not gonna get into that, but that I had to go to India, and I decided to go to India by land. And
You could buy a plane ticket, or you could do all of this.
hitchhiking, and that I would do it like without money.
This is the thing. So when he told me, I was like, I must have heard wrong, like lost in translation. So I mean, he's like, you went from Italy going to
Yeah.
India along all those like not the like the most well-known countries. It's like different, very different cultures or different everything, with no money. And also, I think he said no phone, no money, no credit card,
No phone,
no money, no phone.
no phone. So
But
this was
wait.
like
When was this?
This was like 2014, I would say 2014.
So you were like, how old are you?
20.
33?
I'm 34, so yeah, I was like
Yeah, I was 26. Something like that.
26. So yeah, I mean, at that point, I said, this is the real adventure. So I'm gonna do it like for real. And so backpack, and I set off. And yeah, I had no money, no phone, and just this far-fetched idea of reaching India
Alive.
alive. And so, I mean, it was amazing because I probably told you, Diego, because yeah, I just came back from that experience, and it was actually the best adventure I ever did, for many reasons. I went from like all the Balkans like this down from Italy, and then I crossed like Albania, and I went to Macedonia, and then I went to Turkey and Greece, like
All
Turkey.
this like hitchhiking.
Hitchhiking.
You,
Uh,
you,
and the farther I went
There's
from
so many
Europe,
questions, man. Like,
it was amazing. Like the further I went, because in Italy it's really hard to hitchhike these days. People don't trust you, or like it's not common anymore. But the more you go, like Albania, like, and from there on it was like easy.
easier.
Like
Or
people
maybe
would just see a white guy.
you perfected
I
your
also
hitchhiking
perfected.
face
Yeah.
and your hitchhiking sign.
Because
So-
there is a technique. You have to understand, the right spots where to put yourself and stuff like that, of course. And I was eating, like asking for food. Basically, I had no tent. I had a mat. I was sleeping like by the road, literally, like just like finding spots. And I was eating, like just asking, like in the beginning I was asking, like bakeries for the food from the day before or something like that, and they would give me like a loaf, and I would eat that, and that's it. And then sometime, like people like that would give me a ride would also like offer me a lunch, or like some food. And also this, like the more I went into Eastern Europe, the more people were like amazingly, like yeah, I mean, they would they invite me into their homes, and I started staying like 3 days here, 3 days there. Sometimes I also did it like couch surfing. You know that? So like I would go in an internet cafe and look for like the next city place, just to have a shower like once in a while, and maybe wash like some clothes and stuff like that.
And you had to ask for free internet in the internet cafe because you had no money.
Exactly. So
This had to be zero money at all times, or it had to be you left Italy with zero money, and then if you made money or somebody gave you money, then you can use zero.
Well, nobody really gave me money. I mean, no, sometimes, yeah, like once it happened, like that I used to buy like groceries. Another time it happened and I used to get a taxi, like by the Macedonian Greek border thing. But yeah, I mean, so I used money sometimes if they gave it to me, but it was really, really rare. So yeah, I mean, it was amazing because so I had to ask for everything, like for food, for transportation.
But that's great. It's like a sort of a training, right?
It was a training, like when you were saying before that, like you have to, the shock therapy of getting out of your comfort zone and having to learn how to, I don't know, how to handle like struggle. So this was for me an experience, and I thought about it later. I didn't do it with all this like spiritual idea, but this was what like sages from all the ages would do, like the Buddha. He left, he was a prince, he left everything and he did all this, and all like in India there is a lot of people that do that. They go around and like bare feet, and they basically, yeah, like lead this sort of lifestyle for some time, and this is their spiritual apprenticeship. Like they learn the hardships of life in that way. And
Mhm.
in fact, for me, it was easy because I was white, and like the people were like helping me out, and it was probably an uncommon view for them to see a white guy going around like that.
Like a
So
white
like,
Barefoot,
beggar.
barefoot.
Yeah.
yeah, I never had like one day without food. I mean, I had like, yeah, the worst things were like sleeping outside in random places, and sometimes walking for like 20-30 k's a day with a backpack, but yeah, nothing more than that. And I had so many experience because, so like talking to everyone because I needed to, I made so many friends that I would never have if I just took the bus, took the plane.
Right.
So all these things, like, I had to actually spend time in random places, like just waiting for a ride or like asking this guy for food. And so like I ended up like meeting, I don't know, 10 times more people than I usually do traveling. And and yeah, the intensity of these encounters was like sometimes really strong. So I have friends that I met in this trip that I'm still in contact with.
I was gonna
And
ask you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I
Dude,
do.
it's like leaving the comfort zone final challenge.
Yeah,
Like
this was, I mean, for
Yeah.
me it was. For me
You
it
beat
was.
the game. You beat the
this
game.
this is great, man. This is why I love to do this podcast, man, because you end up listening this is a crazy story,
Man,
man. You're the
imagine you
first
can
person
even
that I've
you
ever
can
met.
even check the Google Maps like I'm hitchhiking. I'm going this way. Is that way to India? Does it put me closer to India or I'm good? Like you can all these
People would
Insane.
laugh,
problems.
yeah, people would laugh, but would also like love
You you
my
you
my
explained I'm going to India
yeah, I mean,
hitchhiking.
if I had the chance of like a longer than usual encounter, like being home for dinner, then I would explain my whole story, why I was doing that, and people would actually love it. Like people I see like crave for this sort of
Mm.
story, especially like when you go like Eastern Europe and all these places like Georgia, Armenia, which were always like in the crossroads, between Europe and Asia. So they have a long ancient culture of hospitality to the strangers, and they were like really amazed by the story, which is not, I mean, that uncommon. I think in the 60s there were a lot of hippies doing this sort of fun. But like, as for me, like I was not really a hippie or anything. I was just trying to do something a bit uncommon. And people like these stories, like the stories from the travelers. I think this is
Yeah.
also a
Mm.
very ancient thing.
I
And
I believe that people love these stories, and I love this kind of stories because they inspire you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They give you like a peek out of your daily life, a window on something a bit
yeah,
different.
and also like that is doable, because it's not like, uh, I mean, it is a crazy story,
Yeah,
but it's
But
doable.
you
it's
are here
doable.
talking. You're here talking to us, and you don't have like a third eye, or for you're like a normal
Yeah,
human,
No,
and you did.
no.
I think this also ties to the homesteading, the like growing your own food and having your own house, like not having to go the office job and being able to have your own business or freelance. A lot of it, the reason people don't do it is like they don't entertain the idea that it's doable. So a lot of like the
Yeah,
unlocking, I think, can be done
the first
by
step.
yeah,
It's
by
yeah.
knowing that some other people that are not aliens, that are not like LeBron Jameses or Maradonas, like super mega talented, they did it, which is what in a minor scale did it for me to learn how to sail. I had the idea, I cannot do this because I didn't start sailing when I was a kid. And then you see, anybody in my situation did it, so I can do it. This is the same in a bigger scale. That's why when we're talking with Garza about this, he said, let's do a podcast for us to have fun, but
Yeah.
also, like for like our friends and the people to listen to, normal people, your friends, my friends, or like friends of friends, that you know, like not talk to Elon Musk or Bill Gates, you know, like normal people that are not having an office job and they're doing it and they did it.
Yeah, for sure. Like, so this podcast is it's a great thing. So I wish you like all the best with this enterprise and like for it to grow, because people need, you know, different voices to be inspired, for sure. Like,
Yeah. And before finishing, like, Diote, we have to go and visit Fede, man.
To the mountain, man.
Yes, dude.
I gotta
like,
talk to you. I gotta talk to you.
Please.
I have to. Garza, it's very sad. I think I have to cancel the Malaga trip. I told you already why.
Bummer.
Yeah, big bummer, Big bummer in my inner circle too. But no, it's good. But we can maybe switch it. We can switch it for some time in the mountains, Fede.
Like, but I would love to.
Second half of April.
Yeah. And besides that, like, I think we can have further more profound talks over there, man.
In person. But so, like, where are you living?
I'm living in Malaga.
In Malaga. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, you're welcome here anytime. You can stay as much as you want. I mean, if you come, if I heard Diego well, like second half of April, the house is a bit of a mess right now because I moved in some furniture. So some of the rooms are like full of furniture that I have to move in the upper floor. But
uses manpower for you. We pay in manpower.
Well, of course. I mean, but yeah, I mean the work upstairs is not the best, but we can find. I mean, the house is pretty big, and I have a huge tent, a yurta, like 4 meter of diameter with a wood stove inside. So in the worst case scenario, like we use it.
Yeah,
he's trying to tell us if you guys are pussies and you're cold.
Yeah, no, I mean,
you can go.
Yeah. No, after your story that you were sleeping on the road,
we will
like,
never.
You don't have a comfortable.
This is comfortable, guys. Like, this is super comfortable. Like, the guys used it on New Year's Eve, and they slept there, and it was warmer than inside the home because it's like. It's small and closed, and with a wood burning stove. I mean, you can turn it into a sauna. So like it's big enough to put in like some inflatable mattresses and whatever. So like
I have one. I have the mattress here. I can bring.
Everything is there already. You don't have to bring
it. That's great.
Yeah. Come anytime, like spring or anytime you want. Like.
Awesome. We will.
I'll be happy. Yeah.
Okay, guys. Okay, let's close this episode, right?
Fede, grazie mille.
Fede, yeah, grazie mille. It was great to have you.
Pleasure.
How did you have a good time?
I did. Great time. It was a pleasure having a chat with you, and really, looking forward to have some in person.
We'll do it.
Wish you all the best for the next episodes, and thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Of course. Thank you, Fede.
Well,
guys.
I'll close this so it stops recording. Fede, if you have any potential guests for us that speak English or Spanish, send over. Your 92-year-old neighbor, maybe she only speaks Spanish, but that would be another interesting.
No, she only. I might have a friend like I don't think you met him, like a half Greek.
Maybe I did meet him.
Nicolo.
Maybe I did meet him. Yeah. In Reggio.
In Reggio, maybe you met him. Oh yeah. Maybe you met him once in Reggio. Yeah. Like he had also like some like, and he speaks Spanish well and English pretty well. He's the one that I can think of like straight off my head. But if someone else comes to my mind, sure.
Awesome.
All right.
Cool. Okay, guys. See you next time.
Buona giornata.
Cheers.
Anche voi, altrettanto. Ciao.
Ciao.